Hello there. Welcome back to the maximum weight challenge. Unfortunately, no around the grid today as I want to focus on getting this thing done before 24 releases in, well, a little over a week. So that is going to be, unfortunately, my focus. Currently, we are a good 27 points behind the Red Bulls, and let's be perfectly honest here. Potentially this season, if we try hard, the hardest we've ever tried, we could potentially catch Red Bull slacking. And, well, not really slacking. We could potentially catch Red Bull if we have clean races where we don't drop too many points. Right now, we're very equal on the low speed cornering. They have a bit of a medium speed advantage. They have a bit of a same kind of high speed advantage. They have dirty air tolerance advantage. But generally what we're going to probably be seeing over the course of this year is Red Bull becoming more and more dominant as they shed weight, get the sliders a little bit better. You know, you get the idea. So at this crossroads, we basically have a bit of a choice. Do we focus on research and use this as development season, which is honestly what I'm leaning towards, or do we go all in and develop this season in order to try and topple Red Bull? Honestly, I don't think that's really viable. So I'm going to stick with doing a development season, but maybe if we have time before 24 releases, I'll be probably releasing daily videos next week. We'll have to see. I might go ahead and revisit this just this season from this point forwards and see if we can out-develop Red Bull and maybe take victory in the 25 season. But enough of that, we are ready to continue and we're going to jump directly into Miami here. We are probably going to be focusing on getting the first half of the season done in this video and basically split the remainder of the season up into episodes. Let's see if we get everything done up until and including Belgium. Should be the midpoint, I believe. So yeah, let's jump into Miami, see what it has to offer us. Miami started out with an orange on orange incident, and since we are expecting rain, we're going to try and do it with just the one pit stop, and we're doing a light run on mediums until the rain arrives around lap 30. Although we end up with a little bit of an ill-timed double stack as Gasly gained a couple of seconds due to that ability, we're still 1-2 off the interstops, and for the race itself, we end up with a nice 1-2 finish. Red Bull finished 4th and 9th, at Emilia Romagna, Norris had a minor pit stop issue, costing us a couple of seconds, but even so, we were able to come out ahead of the Red Bulls in 3rd. Russell also had a bit of a solo crash, costing him any chance of points, and as we keep on running with the Bulls, we are doing our best to save our tyres, so we have a bit of an advantage towards the end if we can avoid a safety car. This time around, the Reds have an incident, getting inspired by the McLarens last weekend, and a few laps before the end, we go on the offensive and clear the Red Bulls as well as Sainz, who was leading, to pull off yet another 1-2 finish. With the help of Sainz, the Red Bulls finished this race 4th and 5th. Schumacher starts off Monaco with a blast as he is the first incident of the race. And while we had a quiet race fighting for the top spot, it got somewhat ruined by a slow pit stop for Gasly. As the final lap starts, we can see Gasly trying to make an unsuccessful attempt for 4th place, but in the end, we come 1st and 5th after the slow stop, and if not for the time lost from that, we could probably afford Verstappen for P3. With the results in Monaco and the previous races, we have actually taken the lead in both championships and have already massively outscored last season. An incredibly quiet Spanish GP is nearing the end, and we are running 2nd and 3rd after the final pit stops, with Verstappen chasing us down. And the Red Bulls have been really rapid around here, and just beating Verstappen would be a win for us. But unfortunately, we couldn't make it happen. There's 15 laps remaining, and the tyres end up getting eaten up, and as such, the Red Bulls were just too quick for us. We had no chance to catch them. So our first couple of researches this season has finished, and I just want to give you a little bit of an idea on how the games are actually looking here. So as you can see, this is the underfloor for next year without any research, and it's pretty bad, let's face it. This basically translates to 51% for both of these. This translates to 37%, which is, you know, very low. And, well, we have the percentages here. So already we've gained 13% drag reduction back. We have gotten this back up to 52%. And these guys have gotten a good 12.5% boost each. So already the underflow is looking a lot better. We've also got the rear wing here with a basic research. Isn't really giving us super much here, but it's 3% DRS, 3% drag reduction, a bit of cornering, we severely lack. We get back up to 41% here, still around 50% for both of these. And what we are going to do here is actually invest our next CFD period into the rear wing. I'm going to be trying to use CFD periods on the four major part, which is, of course, your underfloor, your front wing, your rear wing, and also, in my eyes, your suspension. And already you can kind of see it just how influential this CFD usage is. 54 kph here, 10% drag reduction. We even get a bunch of cornering. And we can even alter this further by, maximizing what we, want to have more of and minimizing what we don't care too much about. Our dirty air tolerance next year is going to be absolutely horrible. But I think the idea is that we just go for trying to outpace our opponents. That's really the only thing we can go for. So this is what we can do here. Airflow is getting hit by that 70% alongside the high speed. So we might need to focus a little bit more on that later on. But for now, we're just going to do this pretty much across the board. And using more engineers here isn't really a super detriment, honestly. We basically only lose a little bit of the excess, but we're just going to let it run normally. Other than that, we are still going to keep on researching kind of everything. I would love to do a couple more research on the underfloor. You can see that 4, 6, 12 just running a basic. We compare that to, say, the sideboard here. We're basically getting somewhat equivalent results because remember, these researchers take way little less. Less is the word I'm looking for. Takes way less time. So there is an argument as to why you would like to focus on, say, in our case, do a chassis research here instead of the underfloor. We get 10, 3, and 8. And if we take a look here at what we get from the underfloor instead, which takes basically 1.5 times as much time, it's pretty much equivalent. So we'll have to see what we do. Honestly, I might end up using another CFD period on the underfloor later on. So I think we'll try and get a research in for the chassis and a research in for the sideboard here before we, say, go back to the underfloor. We're going to try and balance our research somewhat. And what I think we might do here is actually focus a little bit on the drag reduction because it's the part that gets hit hardest. The rest here, 45, 43, 31%. We need to get our drag reduction back up again. At least we want everything at least at 50%. 60% would be, acceptable. 70% would be great and probably a little bit unrealistic to get to. But you get the idea. We're going to be working on kind of trying to make next year's car more competitive than this year's car. Now, of course, we do have a fairly competitive car right now, but its growth potential is severely limited by the maximum weight. So even if we do a development season, I don't necessarily think that's going to end up with, any huge gains. And honestly, because everything on the suspension is kind of important, I kind of want to say that the high-speed cornering, though, might not be, because we usually minimize it anyways. I think we're just going to keep everything in the middle here. Because honestly, we kind of need all of this again next year. We need brake cooling because, again, we sacrifice it to get more pace stats, if you will. So we're just going to do another one like that. And for the front wing here, we're actually going to switch that one over to side pods once this one finished. But you kind of get the idea. We could go for a more competitive build this year, but it would basically mean that we're throwing away next year if we can't succeed. So I'd rather go for a more certain, if you will, result next year than to throw everything away this year. So that is the logic. That is why I'm doing things the way that I am. And I did not want to do another front wing. I remember I wanted to do a sideboard here, just get one project in. Although that, let's be perfectly honest, getting more work in on the front wing would probably be good as well. So we'll have to see here how we balance things. But honestly, having chassis and sideboards about 10% behind your, top 4 is usually acceptable in my book. And then as you hit 70%, turn it down to 5. and 80% you want them pretty much to be identical to each other. But yeah, a little bit of an intermission here with the research. As I said, I might go back to an earlier checkpoint and try this again. But yeah, we are leading still, 20 points over Red Bull. But Red Bull did get a brand new component last time out, which is why we had no chance of following them. We have been doing the thing where we switch powertrain components between one for practice, good ones for the race, and it is slowing down our pit crew development a little bit, but it is allowing us to score a good amount of good and easy points, if you will, at the start of the season. As you can see, currently we are resting our crew a little bit, but we can actually put in a couple of sessions here towards the end of the month. So yeah, we do have an idea. Can we pull it off? Probably not, but at least we'll be able to fight a lot closer to Red Bull than we were last season. And again, the main goal here is just to be dominant next year, kind of build up to nailing the regulation change, if you will. But yeah, all research projects are back and running, and we've actually just had a factory fire, which has been pretty detrimental for us in the sense that we're now lagging behind on components massively. If we take a look at front wings, actually the easiest way to do this is probably just to click on the car. Front wings, rear wings, we basically ran out of both of these, so we're going to go ahead and get kind of stock back up on both of these. But luckily enough, we didn't run out of components over the course of this factory fire. It actually lasted 2 weeks in a triple header, so as you can imagine, it could have been really, really bad. But yeah, we are looking good. Development is looking good for both our drivers as well. We are getting close to that maximum control. Getting closer to, well, basically we're the same point, but he's close to maximum smoothness. Gasly got a couple of braking points last time I checked. Max is out of ability. So, yeah, it's going really, really well. Let's see if Canada can offer us some more points. Canada starts off interesting with a incredibly early safety car, and as you can see, for the most part, everyone is still running together. So what I think we might do here is actually go for a bit of a double stack. This is our current strategy. We're doing something a little bit aggressive here with the full attack medium into 2 aggressive softs. We still have a bit of a chance here, let's be honest, to fight the Red Bulls here. Just 3 points ahead of them at the moment. But Norris still has a somewhat sizable lead in the championship. So we're still going to try and fight them. But honestly, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think that's really viable this year. So what we are going to do here is most likely go ahead and pit. I've been a bit lazy here. We're just using Norris for both car strategy. Not a big surprise there. It's just a little bit easier than putting individual strategies for both teams. And what I think the play is going to be here is potentially just to run a light soft here. As you can see, it's going to be a bit slower. But if you consider the fact that we are going to get a pit stop under the safety car, and since it is still fairly early at lap 14 out of 70, we could potentially also see the other teams opt to just straight up not pit. So I think this is what we'll do. If it turns out the temperature is too low to run light, we can turn it up standard. It's not going to be a big deal. So this strategy is still going to work out to, well, to our advantage, I think. Now, in terms of the other cars here, Hamilton, Ocon are guaranteed to pit. Honestly, I think most cars here are going to pit. So we are going to go for the double stack. We're already at 68%. And let's face it, we're going to lose probably 8 to 10% under the safety car. By the end of it, we're at 58, 55%. And then we do 5 more laps, not even that, 3, 4, 5 laps, then we're going to have to pit. So might as well just take advantage. It is going to suck that we're double stacking, but on the flip side, every other team is also double stacking here. So if we see both Red Bulls go in, they're double stacking, the Ferrari's actually good, but we can already see them entering the pits there. So this could be a very, very interesting race just from that perspective. That could potentially also be a red flag incident. He's kind of parked in the middle of the road. And yeah, so far everyone is just peeling into the pits here in order. So we are getting some double stacks. You can see that Red Bull are parked. And for Red Bull, they're actually going to be losing out quite a bit here. Just purely, I wish I could get a better camera. Just purely due to the fact that they're going to have to wait quite a long time here to actually get out of the pits. And we have for Gasly here. A clean stop, but we have to wait. We have to wait. We're still waiting. That is an insane amount of time that we needed to wait. We do come out pretty far back as a result, and Norris is just gonna also get immediately mogged down spectacularly. So 5th and 10th. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. I wish we could have come out a little bit further ahead there for Gasly. Potentially what we could have done is just try and, you know, run another lap before we pitted. That might have worked out for us if the safety car did not collect us, which it would have because we would have been first. So while it's not the best result here, let's be honest, I still think that we'll be able to turn this race into something good. The rest here has gone to mediums for the most part, and as far as I know, those are not going to last till the end, unless they take really good care of them. And as you can see, Norris doesn't actually have any mediums, so we'll use the hard as a comparison. The hard will survive till the end, but with this little left, I don't think we can say the same for the mediums. Everyone has kind of put themselves in a two-stopper right now. With the exception of, I believe there was one hard runner. Nope, I'm wrong. So this could be a fairly interesting race just due to that. But we're going to have to manage tires now. We're going to have to try and make our way up here, catch up to Verstappen. Ocon has been incredibly quick this weekend. He's been starting P1. He's still in P1. So, yeah, this could get fairly interesting fairly quick. But we'll try and make up some places here before we do, excuse me, before we do our second pit stop. And honestly, we might actually extend this one a little bit more and be more aggressive on our final one. Depends on when people start pitting. But yeah, we'll try to work our way forwards here. But honestly, we do need to do our best to just to beat Verstappen. But as I mentioned, we're still doing research. I don't think beating Red Bull this season is going to be viable. We are currently in the process now of doing our final pit stop here. Norris is going to come out in 11th, which is not great. And with Stroll being the only one that hasn't pitted ahead of us, with Gasly as well, we probably aren't in the best position here to snatch some good points at this race weekend. We now have Gasly pitting, and honestly, we can probably run these tires aggressive till the end just to try and get something done. But Gasly also comes out in 7th. He is 8.5 seconds here behind the Red Bull. And let's face it, we are going to have a hard time to get any good results here. The best we can probably hope for is 2nd. But Norris is most likely going to lose his position in the World Championship, simply due to the fact that the pit stop really did screw him over. In terms of pace here, we are equal with the Red Bull. We're a bit slower than Russell and Ocon, however. So we need to get a move on to have any chance of catching them before the end of this race in 18 laps. We are getting close to the end here. Norris has made his way up into 7th place here, which is good. But with 11 seconds up to Gasly in 6th, it doesn't seem very likely that we are going to be able to catch up in any reasonable fashion. However, Gasly is in a bit of an interesting position here because he's running somewhat equivalent to the cars ahead, but with them fighting each other constantly, we could potentially see Gasly here catch up to the back of them and maybe make a little bit of progress before the end of this this race. We do lack energy, however, so we need to catch up within just a couple of laps here so we can recharge and use DRS to try and get a move on. But we'll have to see if we can even get to the back of these cars before the end of this race. And before we even get there, Russell has a bit of an incident, a crash involving multiple cars. And it's actually Verstappen that was involved here. Verstappen and Russell have a bit of wheel banging. Verstappen goes on like nothing happened, but Russell gets sent to the Shadow Realm. The question then is, did they damage their tires? Maybe a little bit. Verstappen's down to 41%, Russell down to 39%. And they were not among the first that did pit, so that is interesting. It is also giving Gasly a bit of a freebie here, as he is now caught up to the back of the pack ahead. And Russell was found to be at fault, which honestly is kind of sad for us, because if Verstappen was found to be quote-unquote guilty, that would actually have benefited us far more. Now, because we were recharging and I was just yapping, I kind of lost Gasly's DRS train here, as you can see. But we are still running with them, and Leclerc has actually broken free here a little bit, so It's going to be an interesting last 3 laps here. And the question now is, do we do some more recharge, or do we think that we have enough battery to try and make our way past these 3 cars? Because Leclerc has created enough of a gap that we're not getting him by the end of this. So what I think we do is we go high, overtake aggression. We allow this kind of lap to just finish as it is. And then we are going to, at the end of the DRS section, go full attack. As we only have 2 laps now remaining for the end of this, we're going to get a bunch of energy back now in the braking zone. And already we're launching a bit of an attack on the Aston. And getting just 1 car here would actually be quite huge. So that is good. We now have Verstappen ahead of us. And any Red Bull we beat is just extra points, if you will. I do think what we do here is just use what little energy we have left to launch an attack with the DRS. It seems to be the best option. And we should have a little bit more speed than Verstappen due to, well, tire for one. And it did actually work out as we anticipated. And the question now becomes a very simple. Can we get the Ferrari? Honestly, I think we're going to try and just get it in the DRS zone. The final DRS zone. It seems to be the safest bet here. And it's probably going to be a little bit difficult. But I have hopes. We're going into the final corner now. We should get a little bit of energy back because of braking. We did not. My bad. We get at the end of the race. So we did actually waste a little bit too much energy there, potentially, to get this done. We'll have to see. But even then, getting a podium here would be acceptable, as we are trying the best that we can to beat the Ferrari to line. Just a little bit short there, 0.179 seconds. And Verstappen ends up 5th, while we get Norris in 6th. So, not a bad race, but we are kind of starting to see now the result of not only the Red Bull, the Ferraris, even Aston, running new engine components. They are becoming faster as a result, but also some of their development is starting to show through. And while Norris is still in charge of the championship here, I don't think that's going to last for too long. Constructors-wise, we are still just barely ahead of Red Bull. So, yeah, we do have... I don't think we would beat them over the course of a full season, unless Red Bull has a couple of, teammate-on-teammate incidents where they both get knocked out, and we have a completely clean season with no DNFs. I think that would be the demand, really, to get this done in 25. Now, I am going to go ahead here and just speed along to the Austrian Grand Prix in 11 days, but we're also going to go ahead here and have a look at our pit crew. We're up to 46% tired, and again, this is due to the fact that we are switching components. We're doing it just to try and give ourselves a little bit of an advantage in terms of pace from those components. But at the second half of the season, we're probably going to stop doing that simply due to the fact that it's not going to be, it's not going to benefit us enough that we'll want to sacrifice the pit crew training. And honestly, to finish second is huge in its own right, and maybe even a little bit negative, because we aren't really looking for... It's going to give us less safety time, basically, next year. And that is not really what we want. But you can get the idea. I do have a little bit of a dilemma here with how we want to handle this. Sure. Morale minus for 20 days. Plus morale for 10 days. So you don't get the boost for the actual weekend either. And it's a 2. So 20 days, 7, 14, 20. There we would go. 2 weekends. Sure, I'll approve of it. But yeah, as mentioned here, it's kind of a dilemma, because if we go all in this season, which we will not, but it's just a theoretical, we could potentially, fight Red Bull throughout the season, but just a couple of unlucky incidents would completely ruin the entirety of the challenge, if you will. Okay, we're right into the media for 6th of January 1900. We agree with that. I'm fine with that. And as I mentioned, I just want to show you now just how the car looks in comparison to the other cars around the grid. And as you can see, we've already fallen pretty far. We're 9th now in low and medium speed. We're 13th in high speed. We're 5th in top speed. And if you compare us to the Red Bulls, we're still fairly equal on low speed tracks. But they now have a bit of a, well, we basically equal still in terms of top speed. But they have a pretty huge high speed advantage. They have a very, very good medium speed advantage. And they have shed a little bit of extra weight here too. So the Red Bull as of now is a car that we can't really beat on high speed tracks, which is what is coming up here in Austria. I would expect us to get maybe a fifth, sixth again, something like that. So it is a bit of a challenging proposition to even try and win this season. But we're going to jump into Austria. We're going to see what we can do. And apologies for my yapping, but I do find the idea of trying the hardest we can this season interesting, but at the same time, it's very, very risky, if that makes sense. Let's go to Austria. Let's see what we can do. The Austrian sprint did not really go our way with a 1-2 from the Red Bulls and ourselves down in 4th and 9 after a poor qualifying from Gasly. In the race itself, Gasly had an incident with Aston, sending him down to last place, and with damage to chassis and front wing, it was rather hard to come back. The penalty went to Aston and Stroll, so a rather unlucky start to the race for Gasly. The race itself, apart from this, was very uneventful, and unfortunately Gasly was unable to recover and ended up 17th, while Norris ended up 5th. And RB 1-2 put them ahead of us in the championships, in a race we expected them to be way stronger than us. In a similar manner to Austria, Silverstone is yet another track where high speed is crucial, and that allows the Red Bulls to easily run away from the rest of the grid. Gasly's bad luck continues here, and with the slow 6.7 second pit stop, and to make matters worse, shortly after he runs wide and picks up damage to his underfloor. With 10 laps to go, Norris finishes the last pit stop, and he is 6 seconds or so behind the Red Bulls when we begin the chase. With 5 laps to go, Norris is chased down the podium by overtaking Russell. He's now just a couple of seconds behind first place, and with 2 laps to go, we overtake Verstappen for the lead and create a 1 second gap for the last lap in order to take the win. And Gasly does unfortunately end up 9th after the combination of bad pit stops, getting damage, and the loss of confidence from running wide. In Hungary, we have a fairly interesting race on our hands as we're on lap 10 out of 70. There has been a minor incident further back, but we qualified 2nd and 3rd. We're running 2nd and 4th, and as you can see, it has started raining. We're going to have a race here with some changing conditions, and due to that, we have opted to start on a medium tire here on full attack in order to kind of try and make up some time. It also allows us to, you know, have a little bit of a gap in case the rain arrives later. And it is slowly building up right now at 25 millimeters. Probably going to do a couple more laps here before we end up pitting. And Gasly honestly should have a pretty much a field day with this, because he does have maxed adaptability. So he should have a little bit of an advantage over, say, Leclerc and Verstappen. But as you can see here, there are some gaps that we can try and exploit, but honestly, it is going to be pretty hard. Now, the rain is getting to the point right now where we should probably pit. And as you can see here, there is a good 3 seconds between Gasly and Norris. So we're actually going to go ahead here and double stack. I think that is probably the best bet that we do have. And again, the Red Bulls just are a little bit too quick for us. There's just no way around that. They have been quick. They're going to be quick. We are getting to the point now where our powertrain is getting damaged. About 50%. We're basically just slightly above it. But as you can imagine, this is going to have an effect on our car. Now, Verstappen and Leclerc is actually double stacked completely. So Gasly is going to jump at least one of them. And Norris comes out here in 5th, which is not a bad... that's not a bad position to be in. And as I mentioned here, this is going to be a race with changing conditions. We need to make it until at least lap 45. And then maybe we go with a full attack hard till the end. We'll have to see how the degradation treats us. It is pretty harsh here at Hungary. But so far, I'm honestly fairly happy. And we could go full attack till the end here. But I don't think there's going to be need to that. We are going to go a little bit aggressive here just until we have heated up our tires. And then we're probably going to turn it down to standard for a little while. And then go back on the attack towards the end of this race. I think that's going to be the play. Basically, save a little bit of tire compared to our opponents. And then make up the gaps towards the end of the stint. So let's see if that plays out. We might need to go a bit more aggressive here with Gasly, just due to the fact that Leclerc is catching up, and he's catching up quick. But yeah, we'll try and manage our tires in a way that allows us to potentially jump the Red Bulls, or at least keep up with them once we get to the end of this rainy period.
Keep us updated on track.
We are getting closer now to the non-rainy period, and as you can see, Leclerc has actually overtaken us. We were just unable to keep him behind. We did try and use a little bit of tyre here, as you can see from Gasly, to keep him behind, but it just did not work. So we're going to try now to push. It's still going to be a few laps here before it dries up completely, but we're going to see if we can get the timing on basically jumping onto the next tyre correct. And if we take a quick look at what we can expect in terms of strategy here, we can go on a hard tyre. We can run that till the end. In fact, it's what I expect most cars are going to do. And honestly, it's really the only thing here that makes sense. We can also run it light, lose a couple of seconds, but probably get those back by running attack in the end. So we could do that. The other option would be to use a medium, which we unfortunately don't really have many of, because we use the one medium we have, or a soft, which we also don't have. So for Norris here, it is going to be the hard that is going to be the best option. And we might end up running it light just basically to build up a little bit of a tire delta compared to the rest of the grid. But standard is probably what we're going to end up doing. Now, if we look at Gasly here, I believe he has kind of the same tire allocation that Norris has. He actually does have a soft tire available. And if we say lap 45 for when it dries up, which is probably going to be a little bit wrong, he could be fairly quick with that. We can also put him on a hard tire, say a couple laps earlier. And that is probably going to be a little bit quicker. So we'll just have to see exactly when it dries up. If it dries up earlier, say lap 42, 43, put him on the hard tires. If it dries up very late, lap 45, put him on the softs. But seeing that we're losing about 10 millimeter, 15 millimeter a lap, I don't think that is gonna work out for us. The hope here is gonna be, of course, to jump Hamilton with Norris, go for third and fourth, because really that is what we're going to be fighting for till the end of this season. And what I am thinking is that we're going to jump in potentially a little bit early here now, as the rain is going away. And Gasly in particular should have no problem jumping in right now with his adaptability, go on through the hard tire, and just push full attack for a lap. I think that is what we do. We push full attack for a lap. To be fair, Gasly doesn't really need to do that, but it should be good enough that we'll be able to at least stay ahead, as we do have a pit stop issue here that is costing us a tremendous amount of time. 12.6 seconds.
The Alpine crew standing by, but they're not able to loosen the tire.
Gives me bonus vibes now with a machined nut. Yeah, we're out in 6th, but with 12 seconds for that pit stop, that basically means that we're most likely going to get jumped by Hamilton. So that is a little bit worrisome, but I think we'll make it happen. So I think we're just going to push Gasly here until we get temp into the tires, and then we're going to go ahead and tune him down to standard here. And as you can see, Hamilton is coming out of the pits right now alongside Norris, and due to, the slow pit stop, both cars are now behind. So it definitely did hurt us. And for real now, the fight that we're going to have is going to be with Hamilton to secure that last podium spot, as Norris just had an opportunity there to slide by. Let's see if we can get him on the straight here, maybe. Although we do have a back market being a little bit of a problem. As you can see, everyone is on hard tires here, so we're running the same tire till the end. And let's be honest, there's 10 seconds up to the Red Bulls. We're not going to be able to close that down. So honestly here, if we can, I would be very happy to say have Norris push up behind Hamilton, stay with him, and just kind of take advantage of Hamilton's tires to nurse our own, and then towards the end, get the overtake done. Let's see if we can pull something like that off. As we are approaching the end of the race here with just 2 laps remaining, we're starting that second lap right now. We are getting Norris with a bit of an attack here against Hamilton. And most likely here, Gasly is unfortunately not going to be able to close him down. He is gaining a second on a lap, but that is probably just going to be a little bit too little, unfortunately, although we should probably push his fuel as well. Now, Norris is going to be able to create a gap here that could potentially make, something happen. But as mentioned, I don't think we're getting catching him by the end of this. It's just a little bit too much. And we could probably have started this attack a lap earlier, but even then, that's just an extra second on the scale here. So Verstappen wins, Norris is going to come in third, and as I mentioned, we are no longer leading, I believe, either championship. But a third and a fifth here is definitely acceptable, and it's probably way better than what we anticipated at the start of this year for sure. I just want to give a quick update here on the standings. So if we take a quick look here, as mentioned, Verstappen now takes the lead of the Driver Championship. Norris was actually holding on for dear life up until this point, and is still in contention, let's be honest. We can still make Norris do something. In the Constructors, however, Red Bull is now almost 60 points ahead, which means that they are fairly safe in that regard. In terms of the fastest pit stop, we have basically twice the amount of points of Red Bull, and while they had some good stops here, 2.6, 2.7, we are seeing that the AI's ability to pit is degrading pretty rapidly. So could be fairly interesting to maybe steal Red Bull's sporting director, as that could, accelerate the crash, so to speak. But I don't think there's any point in doing that. We had a sporting regulation change here, and as you can see, we voted against. The regulation change was actually for more safety times for top teams, which, let's be perfectly honest, if we voted for this, it would benefit us next year, as we are projected to come second. But it didn't feel good to do that, so I voted against it, and it did get voted down. Carbon inspection, as mentioned here, the engine is getting close to the yellow zone. The ARS is about 20% left on it as well. And honestly, we're probably just going to use this car as it is during sprints. We're not going to switch components during sprint races. It just adds so much extra fatigue. So this is what we're going to be using here in Belgium. And then I'm probably going to do a little bit of thinking and decide on what we want to do for the last 10 race weekends after that. Because the choice is going to be pretty straightforward. Do we focus on training the pit crew? Do we forgo potentially second? It could be what we have to do. But honestly, it's kind of hard to choose, and you can already see that us switching components the weekend has led to a high amount of tiredness. We can't train these 4 days. That is kind of going to be one of the issues that we run into. But yeah, we'll be considering that next time. For now, though, let's just go to Belgium. Let's see if the sprint and the race itself is spicy or not, if it's a calm and quiet affair, or if we have crashes that, put us to the back. Red Bull so far has been pretty stable. Let's see if they can keep it going. We have an incident that could spice things up a little bit. As you can see, Verstappen running side by side with the Ferrari, and then he loses it. That's not really a bad hit or anything like that, and I would assume that the car is still running, which by the looks of things it is. Lacking half an end plate, but nothing major. And as you can see, we're not really running in a massively good position. We're running 6th and 9th, which is basically where we qualified. And we do have that minor engine issue, which actually does have a pretty decent, or rather pretty large effect on our car in terms of slowing it down. So basically, we're kind of throwing away this weekend. And unfortunately, the weekend that we're throwing away has also turned out to be the weekend where Verstappen does something silly. He is still going to be finishing pretty high up, and honestly, a recovery should not be difficult for him. Let's just put it like that. And for Gasly here, we are going to need to just try and send it now on the main straight. Going to give him high overtake, although his confidence is not really high enough to do that. But if we're going to get the overtake done here, this is going to be the only place where we can actually pull it off. And even then, we are kind of struggling to make it happen. But Gasly has gotten his jump. Unfortunately, Norris seems to be falling backwards while I was focusing on Gasly. But with everything that we have here to push,
DRS is disabled.
He might be able to make something happen still. Gasly is also trying, but 7th and 8th, while not perfect, it's not a terrible start to the full race itself. Leclerc ends up second in the sprint, so of course Red Bull does extend their lead. And Verstappen nudges it back into 11th, which is pretty amazing. So we'll have to see if the race here can be done in, a more acceptable manner. We could go ahead actually and put on a new engine, but honestly, I don't think it's going to have huge effects for the car. This is a pretty, engine reliant place, so we could go ahead and do this, honestly. You can kind of see just how bad our car is becoming. And this is kind of what we saw last year too. and why winning the title is nigh impossible. Our high-speed cornering is down to 18th place. We're 15th in medium speed, or 12th in low speed, and well, 7th in top speed. So the fact that we're scoring points with a car like this is already pretty impressive, I dare say. So I'm really looking forward to seeing just how the car is going to behave next year. But for now, we'll figure out a strategy. We could do a very classic one-stop, which is honestly pretty good around here. But I think we might do something a little bit silly. We go with the mediums to start off with, then we go into a couple of soft tires. And again, I just do this so we can be a little bit aggressive, try and get some overtaking done. And then we can run these soft tires if we wish in aggressive. And with that, we're now 21 seconds faster than some of these basic strategies. So two stoppers does definitely work here. But if we go back to a one stopper here and take a look, they can still be fairly quick. And we're just 11 seconds quicker than that. And honestly, if I play around a little bit here, I can probably make this even a little bit quicker. Potentially. So yeah, running light, we save a second there, now it's just 10. But we do have some varieties here that we can do. So honestly, we're going to do this for both cars. It's just the simplest thing to do. And hopefully we can improve our position just a little bit over the course of this race. But as mentioned, we have a car that is horrible at turning, 7th at top speed. So let's see what we can do here. We have a fairly immediate event here, and as you can see, we are just barely clear of that. As Tsunoda, by the sounds of it, has fully crashed out. We'll have to see. But yeah, we just barely stayed clear of that incident. It was right behind us. And Tsunoda is actually still running, but he's definitely going to be pitting immediately. But yeah, that was kind of a close shave. You can kind of also see just how slow we are in the sense that we were almost outside of DRS there for a second. So it's probably going to be a struggle, but let's see how we do here. We're about to do our first pit stop, and as you can see, Gasly is down in 15th. Norris is going to be pitting and probably come out, hopefully ahead of Rick here. Best thing would be to beat Alonso, but yeah, that ain't happening. So we're going to have a little bit of a breathing space here. Just barely. Unfortunately, we end up in between, and that could definitely backfire a little bit. But what we need to do now is just clear them, get a little bit extra confidence, and hopefully catch up to some of the front runners by pitting a little bit earlier. Gasly is going to have kind of the same challenge here in clearing these cars quick as can be, including Magnussen, Bottas, and Alonso, as Albon actually gets out of the way in pits. And he's basically the only one that we can, reliably assume is going to get out of the way on its own, although Bottas and Alonso both probably will do so in time. So let's see what we can do here in this second stint. Fortunately for us, it did not really go our way here, as we have an incident where Norris kind of gets sideswiped, which is unfortunate, as that puts him down to 15th here. And I think he's actually going to crash again here. No, he just barely survived that re-entry, if you will. So the front wing, by the looks of it, has taken damage. He's lacking half of an end plate there. Probably not something that we're going to fix here over the course of this race, unfortunately. And if we compare it to Gasly, he lost about 6 seconds. Magnussen ate the penalty. And unfortunately, that also does ruin his confidence a little bit, which is going to make getting a good result here even trickier. Remember, Norris is the one that has a chance of, fighting Verstappen in theory. But with Verstappen now up in a podium position, and us down out of the points, it's going to probably be a little bit difficult to achieve. But we'll still do our best here. Let's see what we can do. We now have a safety car, and unfortunately the safety car has appeared just as we've done a pit stop for both of our cars. So that kind of, puts us in a bit of a bad position. And it's actually Ferrari. No, he kind of did it on his own there. Looked like Ferrari on Ferrari violence, but in reality, Hamilton kind of ended up sliding over the curb and hitting the wall. Now, as I mentioned here, we have just pit, and unfortunately this safety car is not going to allow us to take advantage of anything here. Again, any jumps, maybe Albon, nope. Norris gets a couple of positions, but generally here, this safety car is not going to benefit us in any way, shape, or form. So it's just another case of a little bit of bad luck for us, honestly. To be fair though, the race has been pretty ruined already, so it's not going to change anything. But it's one of those things that it's just a bit unfortunate. As mentioned, Gasly is up in 8th, we have Norris in 12th, and with just 6 laps to go right now, probably going to have a little bit of a rough time here. Norris should be able to get in the points there. All 3 cars ahead have
Safety car in this lap. Okay, so
have
overtake available.
older tires, which is going to affect them negatively. We have put Norris into high aggression. We have gotten a little bit of driver confidence back. And we are also going to go ahead here and go high overtake aggression for Gasly, which is a little bit of a risk here, as neither of them have very high confidence. But I think it's something that we need to do in order to try and get something done over these last 5 laps. We need some points here if we want to have any chance at keeping up with the Red Bulls. Now, in terms of the first lap here, let us see what we can do. Gasly is still in 8th, not really getting any moves done. Norris is in 12th, kind of actually falling a little bit behind the Alfa Romeos. And couldn't really get anything done on the first restart lap, but we are going to have a couple of laps of DRS. That's probably going to help. And as mentioned here, Rick's already falling a little bit behind, so we need Norris to clear it as quickly as possible. And for Gasly, the DRS train will be up to Ocon. The question is just, can we navigate it now that Verstappen is taking control? Probably not. Norris is up into 10th now, but that is mainly due to Rick having a lockup rather than an overtake.
Well, you can see the lockup, and hopefully there's not too much damage to the tire.
Yeah, he kind of sailed off on his own there, but it does give Norris basically a free overtake here, or it should, just about. And with that, we are back to very high confidence at the very least. Now, Gasly has also pulled an overtake here, mainly because Russell has ran wide. But we're going to keep on pushing. We're going to see what we can do here, maybe get a few more positions before the end of this, but it's not really looking too good. Final lap here is reaching its end, and as you can see, we unfortunately were unable to get anything better than 7th and 9th here. Honestly, a bit disappointing. 2nd and 4th from the Red Bulls. Sainz end up winning. But yeah, that's kind of a disappointing result, even if we're running 4 engines. But you kind of see here with the car's performance, this is actually a really good result for us. Because as I mentioned, the car is basically a backmarket car to some degree. But yeah, it's a acceptable result for us for sure. Bit shame here that Gasly had yet another issue with the pit stops. It is becoming common that he's getting hit by them. I think this is his 4th race in a row where it's a pit stop issue. Or at least the 4th time this season. Probably a bit more than that, to be fair. But yeah, that is what we got done today. We have done actually a lot. I did not expect the car to be 2nd place, and as that you've seen here, I don't think we could have developed a car that would be able to contend with Red Bull for the second half of the season, even if we'd gone for it. In terms of research we've done, though, it's probably not looking too swell. As you can see here, we are still miles behind, 90 and 90 versus 14 gained here. But to be fair, I'm pretty sure this is, with no CFD, looks a little bit better here on the underfloor, but let's face it, we're going to need at least 2 more CFD periods to even have a chance to catch up to these stats. So everyone's cars next year are going to be a little bit interesting. The rear wing research has come in here even with CFD time, so at least that one's looking a little bit better. We are currently spending CFD time on the front wing, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, the regulation change here is kind of huge, and we'll have some pretty interesting effects going into next year. Now, in terms of the cars, as mentioned, we are not looking too great. As you saw during the race, we can't really check now because damaged components creates a lie that we are 5th, 7th, and 8th versus what you saw in the race itself. So yeah. But yeah, that is it for today. Sorry for kind of dragging it out there towards the end. I have enjoyed it. We will be, again, focusing on just finishing this series before 24. I'll have a little bit more time next week. I'm also having a couple other games that I enjoy at the moment. But I will at the very least finish this series before we get ready for F1 Manager 24. But yeah, let me know what you think. Should we maybe replace Gasly for next season? We'll have to see if we have anyone that are interested. Should we do any other changes that you would like to see? But honestly, I think it's looking good so far. It's just if we can capitalize next season. Again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.